So welcome everyone. We start in 5 minutes. We're just waiting for people to join us before we start. So we start in 5 minutes maximum. So before we start, could you maybe put in the chat section where you're based, please? In which country are you based? Just for us to know where you're based and who you are. If you can put in the comment section, please. Before we start in 2 minutes. Oh, sorry, I was on mute, sorry. So I was saying welcome everyone. Welcome to this wonderful session of Queen of Sales meeting that we have today. So the theme of this conversation is under the topic Give to Gain. As you can see on the screen, I'm not alone. I will be hosting this session with a wonderful lady based in Kenya, named Rebecca. So she will definitely introduce herself. So before that, my name is Patricia Yandokun. I'm currently based in Ivory Coast. I'm working as area business manager for Biomérieux, West and Central Africa. And also for Queen of Sales, I'm the representative for Francophone Africa. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to have also this conversation with all of you. So Rebecca, floor is yours.
Thank you, Patricia. It feels good co-hosting with you today in this special event of the Queen of Sales. So to those who don't know me, my names are Rebecca Ligo. It's quite challenging sometimes pronouncing the various names across the country. You can call me Rebecca. I'm proud to be the representative of Queen of Sales here in Kenya. I work as a country sales manager for Shalina Healthcare. I'm passionate about building high-performing teams and creating leaders who will leave a legacy. I'm a mentor and a coach. I'm a speaker and a trainer as well, and an author of the book called Leading Beyond Limits. I'm glad to be hosting this special event today with my colleague Patricia, and we welcome all of us to learn, get inspired, interact, and bond. Thank you. Back to you, Patricia.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Rebecca, for this wonderful presentation. And Rebecca, I have a question for you. What do we have in store for our Queen of Sales today for this presentation?
Wow, this is a day packed with great moments that are going to leave us with memories to inspire us. So first and foremost, we will give a special moment for a welcome address that will take 10 minutes. I'll not say by whom. I'll give the honors to Patricia to introduce. Then we will have our keynote session. Again, we have a very special speaker with us, and she will be speaking to us for 30 minutes. We will give ourselves a moment of questions and answers, because after that powerful moment from our keynote speaker, definitely there'll be questions. We are known more by our questions, the questions we give, than the answers that we give. So the question and answer session will take 10 minutes. After that, we have two panelists with us. So we will have a panel session that will take 1 hour. After that 1 hour, of course, we'll have questions to our panelists. We will have closing remarks that will take 10 minutes. So we are going to have a solid 2 hours. I believe this is really going to be impactful, and we will definitely not leave the same way that we came. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, Rebecca. Excellent. Thank you for this agenda that you shared with us. So we definitely ask all of you to put the comments. If you have one comment or one question, please use the chat box. Please, as much as you may have in the comment section, and then we definitely take your question as we go. So as Rebecca said, we will start with the welcome address. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this special Women's Month conversation hosted by Queen of Sales. To officially open today's event, please join me in giving a warm welcome to the founder of Queen of Sales and the true champion of growth and mentorship, named Mrs. Nwamaka Udenigwe. So Nwamaka, floor is yours for the welcome address.
Thank you very much, Patricia, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our amazing community, and also good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on what your time zone is. I want to officially welcome you all to our today's event. And today's theme, which is Gift to Gain. I'm so excited to be here because today's theme actually resonates with what we do in our community, what our vision stands for. I'm already introduced, but just to remind you that aside being the founder of Queen of Sales Community, I'm also the managing director of The Untamed, a Nordic beauty European brand. And just for what we're looking for today, today's team talks a lot about Gift to Gain. So there is a lot, and when I said this resonates with our community, because what we do in our community is to make sure we mentor the younger generation, and also make sure they have access to opportunities, access to knowledge, access also to information across industries, and also across countries also. And not just only that, also for those who also are at the top, to also have opportunity to make sure that they have to build their network of mentors. So this is actually a good platform. If you're a woman who is in business, you're in sales, you're in leadership, come and join us to achieve our vision, which is making sure we have more women who are taking the strategic positions in every organization. So today's topic, which is Give to Gain, I'm happy that we have our keynote speakers, our panelists who are going to share with us a lot that we have to learn. But I want to encourage you to sit back, take notes, engage. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to network. Feel free to make sure that before you leave here, we need to be able to learn one or two things we can be able to impact in our organization, in our community. Because we believe that when we give to women, whether it's knowledge, whether it's support, whether it's information, whether it's access, we give to community. So each of us here actually represents a community, and that's why we're here today. And today is also a beginning for us to start making a lot of difference in case we are not doing that already. So thank you everyone for coming, and thank you especially to our keynote speakers, our panelists, our moderators, and all our speakers, and all our country representatives, and even participants who have sacrificed their time to be here. Trust me, it's going to be worth every second of your time. Thank you. Stay back and enjoy.
Wow, thank you so much, Normaka, for this wonderful introduction and welcome address. And thank you also for your vision. We simply believe that it's due to your vision that we are all here today. And thank you for putting it in a row for us. And as you, Rebecca, said, so after the welcome address, we have now the keynote session. And let me introduce the Queen of Sales, or our Queen of today for the keynote session. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, get ready to start this year's Queen of Sales Women Day event on a powerful note. Our keynote speaker is not just a leader, she is a trailblazer, a mentor, and a force transforming how women lead in sales around the world. Gina Stracuzzi is the President and Chief Revenue Officer at Institute for Effective Professional Selling, IEPS, Women in Sales Leadership. She is recognized as a top 100 sales queen, a top 15 B2B sales influencer, and one of the top 100 most powerful women in sales. Today, she will be sharing her insights on growth and influence strategies for women in sales leadership, a session that promises to challenge, inspire, and equip every woman here to expand her influence and lead with intention. Please join me in giving a warm and powerful welcome to our keynote speaker, Gina Stracuzzi. So, Gina, floor is yours for the keynote session.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to be here. I just want to make sure before we get started that you can see my presentation, but it doesn't look like it's in slide mode, which it was earlier.
Yeah, it's
Can you
not in
tell me
slide
what?
mode.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. Of course, it worked great in the dry run and how that always goes. Let me get over here.
There is something you need to click down here on the extreme right below. The TV, the thing that looks like a TV on a stand.
Oh,
Down,
yes. Yeah.
extreme
The
right.
full
So
screen.
click on it.
And put it on full
Oh,
screen.
yes. There we go. Thank you.
Down there. Yeah.
Yep. There we
So
go.
that should do it.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you follow me around the world and
I wish.
Well, welcome everyone. I am so excited to be here. This is what gets me up in the morning is helping other women. And one of the things that I get to do just by, the grace of God or something, I don't know, but I get to lead women in the Women in Sales Leadership Forum, which is part of the Center for Elevating Women in Sales Leadership. And we just had an amazing session yesterday. And it's what I really, it makes me, it stops me in my tracks sometimes how women are so hard on themselves. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today. Like, how do you get by any little doubt in your mind, in your head, those voices that talk to you, and really grow your influence? so that you can be everything that you want to be. And this is what we talk about in the forum a lot of times is what is it you want to achieve and how are you going to get there? What is the influence you're trying to build? And so that's what we're going to be talking about this morning, growing influence and the strategies to make that happen. So I'm going to keep moving forward here. And we have time at the end for questions, but if something comes up, please put it in the chat and or raise your hand or something because I'm happy to stop and talk about it. Because women really do, and this won't be a man bashing. I love men. I'm just going to put that out there right now. There's none of that. But we really kick butt, okay? And we close more sales than men do, 54 to 49%. We are better leaders. Our teams are 25% more diverse. And teams that aren't as diverse as the ones women build aren't as successful. And the retention isn't as long. So we have what we need to be leaders right now. All right, so what does it take to build influence as a leader? Because influence is the real currency. You know people who have that influence, and sometimes you can even look at them and wonder how did they get there, right? How is it that people follow them? And it's as much presence as it is a state of mind, right? And the thing that we have to do, just because we have a title doesn't mean that we have influence. And I'm sure you've all witnessed that, where there's someone who's in a leadership position, but nobody really is behind them. It's they're pushing along, but they're not seeing that people aren't following them. And that's because they haven't built that trust, and that comes before the authority. So that's what I would like all of you to think about as we move through the conversation and then in the coming weeks. Are you building trust? Do you have the trust you need to build authority? Because that trust will be seen by those who can elevate you. And then getting aligned with your company's goals or your own goals if you're an entrepreneur. Making sure that you're moving forward in a way that gives you control, right? And that you're not all over the place. And deliver the credibility that you need before you get the title is going to give you all the influence you need. And I hope you come away with this knowing that you don't even need a title in order to be influential and be a true leader. See if this move forward. Okay, so let me talk to you a little bit about me and how I built some influence before I had any authority. And this might look like a funny slide, but how I got started in sales was very early in my career. I got into commodities, the commodities market, the things you see in movies, like the gentleman screaming here. But I was in Texas. And I'm a New Yorker. Okay. I went to Texas just because I was young and out of college and I wanted to try something new. And so I went there and I got into commodities. Well, as you can imagine, it was a pretty male dominated field, to say the least. And these were cowboys. I mean, the gentleman in the office, I don't even know if I'd really call them gentlemen, but the guys in the office wore suits and cowboy hats. It was a really fully different experience for me. And you had to get your commodities license before you could sell commodities. And that is a really really hard license to get. And all of the men in the office had all been through very expensive training for the testing with coaches and all kinds of things. And most of them failed it 2 or 3 times, even though they had this extra support. So my boss said, I don't have any money to put you through the training, but if you want to try to teach yourself, I'll pay for your certification class or testing. And so I put my mind to it that I was going to do that. Well, the guys in the office thought that was hysterical. Like, why would a woman think she could be a broker, especially a New Yorker in Texas? So they put up a sheet on the wall taking bets as to how badly I was going to fail. So as you can imagine, that's pretty daunting. And I was not going to let them have their way. So I studied and studied and studied, and I passed with an 86. And it was probably one of the proudest days of my life when I was able to just take that piece of paper and show it to my male colleagues and have them just, kind of read it and weep, so to speak. But what I learned from that experience is, one, we can do anything we put our minds to, for sure. And two, after I passed and I started getting names and, leads, I was closing new commodities accounts faster than any guy in the office. And I didn't even really know why, but I had a way of talking to the people I was selling to. And commodities is not for the faint of heart. Those markets move really fast. You can lose a lot of money. And the way they're supposed to be used is to help producers and farmers and ranchers hedge their bets or hedge their crops or their cattle against price fluctuations. So getting people to listen to you is crucial. And here I was, this fast-talking New Yorker, and selling to these cattlemen, and they liked it because I talked to them about how I understood their fears in investing in this way. And that gave me influence that these other people didn't have, because I was speaking in a language that made these people understand that I got them as a person, not as an account, not as a producer, not as a cattle farmer, but as someone who understood them. So in talking their language and understanding their fears, I was able to build influence. And by the time I left Texas, I had those same guys that were betting on me, begging me to come work for them. So you can build influence in a lot of ways. It's just thinking about what it is you're trying to achieve and keeping that in the front of your mind and speaking that language. And we're going to talk about that in just a second here. So there's a balance that women navigate that men don't. Okay, we have to build authority, but we have to remain approachable. And it's definitely a double-edged sword. I don't know how it is in every country, but I'm going to make a few assumptions that some things are the same. You can be too assertive and be called aggressive, or you can be too emotional and there are always people trying to label what it is you're expressing, rather than just taking it as actual, this is what's happening in the moment. There's a need to put labels on people. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make our authority clear. And so we make clear decisions rather than using hedging language. Like, I don't know if this is a good idea, or this might be a dumb thought. I just want to cringe every time I hear a woman say that, because you don't hear guys say it. Guys just talk, right? They just talk. They don't feel the need to qualify what they're saying. And so that's what I would like you to do, to really think about when you make a decision, when you say, this is the way we should go, or this is what I want to do because I know it's the right way to go. When you make those decisions and you make them clear, that builds authority. And that authority is going to build your influence. And you need to be consistent. When we're not consistent, that really throws people off. They need to know that the way you're responding, the way you're making a decision is going to be the same from Tuesday to Friday, right? That you use the information in front of you, you weigh it, and you make a decision, and you stick with it. And you're consistent in your delivery of feedback, and you're consistent in your delivery of praise to everyone, right? Those kinds of things really matter when you're building authority. And accountability. When we mess up, we have to say it. And I have to say that I think women are actually a little bit better at this than men sometimes. But the thing that men do that I really kind of respect is they just let things roll off their shoulders, off their back, right? If something goes wrong, they'll say, okay, I messed up, that didn't go well, whatever the case is, and then they're past it. Whereas too often women internalize it, right? I messed up. Everyone's going to think I don't know what I'm doing. That doesn't get you anywhere, right? So if something happens, we take accountability for it and we move on. Moving on is a really great trait, and not something that comes, I would say, as easily to women. We're still rolling it around in our heads again and again and again. And approachability. Listening is one of women's superpowers. We are just inherently very good at listening. So all of that is, you keep that up, and you combine it with your authority building, and it's going to make a big difference. Make sure you're very collaborative. Collaboration is everything when it comes to approachability. When we bring everybody in and we let their voices be heard, that goes so far in building that authority, excuse me. And it goes a long way in building trust. So when you listen and you collaborate, the trust comes naturally. And when you have these things, the authority just keeps building and the influence keeps building. The difference is women we get judged on these simultaneously. We have to be in authority. We have to act like leaders, but we have to make sure we're still approachable too. Whereas you can see men who are in corporations and they can just be complete hard asses if that's what they want to do, and nobody questions it. But for women, there's a kind of a different standard. And at least in the United States, we talk a lot about how women are judged by productivity and men are judged by possibility. In other words, if if leadership sees something in a young man and they think, oh, he could be a good leader. For women, it's like, what has she produced? What has she done? So you have those two things that are always colliding. And you want to really think about how you're going to build your authority, but not be somebody you're not going to be. You want to be approachable, but still yourself. It's when we start playing at being somebody we're not that the authority gets annihilated because people know when we're not being authentic. So that is one thing I would really like to leave you with as we go through is just be yourselves. I mean, you're strong, you're smart, and I'm sure very accomplished queens of sales. So it's taking that and taking it to the next level. Leadership presence, as you know, is built over time, right? And we talked about this just a little bit a few minutes ago, the clear communication. It's giving people the information they need in supportive and usable fashions and keeping that clear communication going. Don't hem and haw. And we've all had those leaders where you're not sure what they're trying to get across, right? And you want to be really have ownership of outcomes, your own outcomes and your team's outcomes. And that's one thing we'll talk about towards the end in in the kind of homework piece that I want you to get used to really talking about your outcomes, your personal outcomes, which is something that can be hard to do. But take ownership of them and then build strategic relationships within your organization. Yesterday's session in the forum, we spent 3 hours discussing the importance of really strong networks and sponsors and mentors. Do you all know the difference between mentors and sponsors? Anybody got a hand? Do you know the difference? No? Nobody in the class did either. um, and there's a really important difference. Mentors, we all know what mentors are. And across a career, you can have a ton of mentors. They can be very time specific, project specific, career specific. They can just be someone you go to grumble to at the end of the day. And all of them are important. But a sponsor is somebody in your organization or in your industry who's going to lift you up, who's going to lift your career up because they know your work, they know you, and they're willing to put their reputation on the line for you, right? They're willing to say, Rebecca is who we need in this position. And they're willing to come to you and say, you need to go for this job. And you might think, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this position. And they'll tell you, yes, you are. And you're going to go for it. That's a sponsor. And they really put their own authority and their own influence on the line for your career because they believe in you that much. It's usually somebody that's going to be, 2 to 3 levels above you, somebody that's known you across an industry, across a company, and it is that influence over your career grows as they grow. Now, they're not always easy to find, and some people have them kind of organically. And once you kind of stop and think about it, you realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I do have one, or maybe this person would be willing to be my sponsor. Think of it kind of as an advocate. It's someone who will bring up your name when you're not in the room, and in a good way, not in a bad way. Somebody that's going to really talk about you as someone they need to know, they need to look at. So think about that too as you're trying to build your leadership status and your authority and presence over time. Think about who it is in your career, your industry that knows you well enough that can maybe play that role. And in the meantime, make sure you're building those networks everywhere, within the Queen of Sales and then everywhere else, in your churches, in your communities. There are other businesswomen, right? And businessmen who can help you. And it's really critical to make time for those networking activities. I don't know about any place else, but I can tell you that in the United States, we have gotten terribly lazy about being out and doing networking things. I mean, this is kind of, there are still people who do it really well, but so many people still work from home that they don't want to go to events in the evening because it means actually getting dressed and going out and being social. So, but for women, it is really critical that you build those strong networks of mentors and sponsors who can help you build your careers. And that will build your influence. And this is where influence breaks down. And this happens a lot. Too often women think that their work will speak for them. And I'll just keep my head down. I'll work really hard and somebody will notice. And they'll tap me on the shoulder and say, Gina, it's your turn. Now it's your turn to grow. It doesn't happen. What I like to tell the women in the forum is think about this. If you're doing a really fantastic job and quite often women take on a lot of what's called quiet labor, little other jobs around, related to their work. They pick up the slack on things, cover somebody else. They're doing all these things. And by the time it's said and done, they've done the work of 2 or 3 people. Well, why on earth would anyone take you out of that position? If you are really good at it and you are doing the work of 2 or 3 people, right? And you're not saying anything, you're not raising your hand and saying, I want something else, I want something more, you're just going to stay there. So, and that will keep your influence down. Okay. You got to raise your hand. Volunteer for task force and special projects within your companies. Make sure people know who you are. And a lot of women avoid visibility. They'll go in a meeting and they'll sit in the back or, don't pull up a chair right at the table because they don't want to be seen. But if you want influence and you want to build your visibility, you've got to stop avoiding it. And don't wait to be invited into strategic conversations. Raise your hand if you have an idea. How many times have you sat in a meeting in your mind, you're like, I know what we need to do, or I think I have an idea as to how we should handle this. But either you don't feel like you had the welcome that you needed to raise your hand or use your voice, and then somebody else comes up with the idea, right? And someone else gets the credit. So don't wait. If you have something in your mind, say it. That will get you influence, that will get you visibility. And you can't grow without the visibility. And confusing performance with influence, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Influence is not about making your numbers or taking, doing the work of 3 people. It's using your voice, sharing your ideas, bringing other people in a collaborative fashion. That gives you that influence. The leadership can see it. The woman who spoke yesterday is, she runs all of Oracle's North America tech sales. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute, right? And she said, I know when I'm on camera with people my team is all over the world. She said, I know who's building influence in my organization because they're the ones that are on camera. They're the ones that are raising their hands. They're the ones who are speaking up, right? And she said, I have all these really amazing women who just sit there and want to have their camera off. You can't do that. If you want to be in leadership, if you want influence, you have to use your voice. You can't hold back. All right. Building leadership presence intentionally. These are some of the habits that really can expand your influence. And there's a shift that happens when leaders move to describing impact. Now, I don't know how many of you might lead teams or if you work for yourself or you're an individual contributor. It doesn't matter. When you're in front of someone who you're trying to influence, speak in business outcomes. Talk about return on investment. Talk about the level of sales that you've attained or your team has and where you're going. Talk in numbers and where you think things are headed. When you start talking in business outcomes, people listen. Not we're thinking about doing this and maybe next year we'll expand a little bit. Talk in outcomes. What would that expansion look like? What is it going to bring you? What will it bring the company? When you start talking like that, people listen. And the visible impact, don't explain the activity. Talk about the revenue impact, the customer impact, the organizational impact. That's when companies can see that you're thinking in terms that benefits them, right? You're thinking bigger picture. And when you do that, they know that you are tapped into what they're trying to achieve. You're not, I hate to use the word just, but you're not showing up and just doing your job and going home. You're thinking big picture. And then build alliances that go across functions and companies. And this is one area where I see women hesitate, is taking a somewhat lateral move to get a better understanding of a company or an industry, right? That can be invaluable. Not everything has to be just up to be influential and to build your authority, right? It gives you knowledge that is just priceless, priceless. And it will help you in terms of new positions that you might be considered for, because your breadth of knowledge will be greater. And then advocate for those on your team. And this is the give to gain piece, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes, but really speak about your team. And that's one of the hardest pieces for people who go into leadership, is especially if you've been a card carrying salesperson and you're not talking about your impact anymore. And sometimes you have to give up that impact because you're nurturing others to have their impact. So you've got to advocate for your team, and you've got to talk about their accomplishments. Does that all make sense? Okay. The foundation of high performing teams, and there's really three things. It's the clarity. Everybody understands the mission and the metrics. The more of that you can do, the clearer you can be, and consistent you can be with that, the more you'll get out of your teams. And that clarity and consistency will build the trust you need. And then information flows openly versus people trying to, hide behind the post because they didn't make their numbers. Whatever the case is, it's when there's trust and information can flow openly, people start to take ownership of what they're doing, not just for themselves, but as part of a team. And when you can do these three things, build clarity, trust, and a sense of ownership, you've got the authority you need and the influence you need. And trust me, people will notice. People believe in their leader, they feel responsible for making sure that the team is successful. And when you can have a high performing team, that's when even higher leadership will recognize it. Oh, this is a little light. Can you see this?
Yes, it's
These are
okay.
okay. Oh, good. These are 5 influence moves for women in sales leadership. And we talked a little bit about this before. Own the business conversation. Don't be afraid to talk in impact terms, numbers terms, forecast terms. Really hit it hard. I mean, and own it. And then we talked about this visible impact. Talk when you've got an idea or what your team is doing. Talk about the impact to other teams, to the company, to the revenue, to the bottom line. Impact always gets attention. Build those strategic alliances, right? With other parts of the company, with other business partners. When you can help forge those, that will give you a lot of influence. And then lead with that clarity and consistency, and develop the leaders around you. The future of sales leadership is going to be women. It is absolutely going to be women. And it will be the women that lead this will be the ones that are able to build the trust and develop those other leaders. So, the tactical how-to for this week. It's always easiest to start with ourselves, or maybe it's harder. I don't know. It depends on what the ask is, right? If you do not have a brag book, and do you know what a brag book is? Maybe. And this is very helpful in sales, because we all know we have good days and bad days in sales, right? What you want to do is write down everything. You want every win, every closed deal, every problem you solved, every time you help somebody, every time you got an email from a customer that says, I really appreciate what you did, make note of it. And this is important on at least two fronts. This will help you when you go to talk to someone about a raise or a promotion, because the person you're talking to may know that you hit your numbers every quarter, but that may be all they know, right? So you have to paint a picture. You have to be able to say, I also did this, 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 and this, which resulted in this, 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 and this. Because they're not going to know. It also is a good reminder when you're feeling a little less than inspired, let's say, that you're doing a great job. And that is important if you have a tough week, or you have a tough boss, or you lost a big deal. Having this to look back on will be a good reminder of what you have accomplished. And then I want you to think about, we all have our elevator pitches, but I want you to think about it in more personal terms. I want you to think about your own personal 60-second value statement, right? Practice saying, in the last quarter, I did this, and I exceeded my quota by this, and I opened this many new accounts in our target market. When you can get used to talking about it, because it's not something that comes really easily or openly to women. Okay, we're a little less braggadocious. We tend to talk about how we helped our team or what our teams did, or we if someone says great job, we say, oh, it was nothing, or I couldn't have done it without so and so, rather than just saying thank you, right? So I want you to practice saying thank you versus trying to dim down the praise. And that comes by stop hiding your own wins. Own them. Really own them. I mean, you are all doing amazing work. So talk about it, and go home and practice with your kids if you have to, or your husband or your dog, whatever it takes to get you used to it. And then I want you to really think about this. Your hard work is the baseline for what you're trying to achieve, but visibility is the accelerator, right? And we all rise faster when we lift each other up, which is my next thought for you. And this is the give to gain shift. As you get better at promoting yourself, really start actively promoting other women. I mean, it will come naturally. So when your colleague hits a big deal, amplify it. Tag her, give her credit loudly. And then when you're in a meeting and another woman, her idea gets ignored, repeat it and say, wasn't that really a fabulous idea Rebecca had, right? Because sometimes people talk over other people, especially women. And the floor goes to whoever has the loudest voice, right? So if you've got a colleague who's getting drowned out, make sure you raise your hand. And that could be easier. Sometimes when someone walks over your words, it's harder to say, excuse me, I'm still talking. But if somebody does it to a colleague, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to say, let's finish hearing what Sarah has to say. So if you see it, say something about it. And you're going to build a network of people who trust you and want to follow you, right? Because they know you're lifting others up with you. I mean, we've all worked with men who want to take the credit, and we've all worked with women who are maybe a little less than generous in their praise or willingness to give credit where credit is due. So we never want to be that person, because trust me, leadership, those above that person, they do notice. They do notice. So when you're building your influence and you're trying to take your career to the next level, be the person that is constantly lifting others up, because that will lift. I mean, either we all come up or nobody comes up, right? We're in this together. All right. And then we're going to take some questions, but this is how you get in touch with me. This is my email address. And I wasn't clever enough to figure out how to get a QR code from LinkedIn on my laptop, only on my phone. And I even asked ChatGPT, like, LinkedIn keeps making more and more changes. I don't know why, but it used to be easy, but not anymore. So, but I'm pretty easy to find. I think, I might be the only Gina Stracuzzi up there. So, out of a couple billion people, that's pretty easy. All right. I am more than happy to take questions. I don't know who's moderating.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gina, for this wonderful presentation. And thank you for what you shared with us. And as I also put some in the comment section. And then what I really learned from you today is that we can't grow without visibility. And
Right.
it's really what I'm taking from your presentation and many more else. So, Queen of Sales, do you have some question for Gina? You can definitely put it in the chat session. But we have some question here, and Rebecca,
Okay.
floor is yours for the question.
All
Okay.
right.
First, let me just thank you so much. That was deep. That was truly heavy. And we have picked so many things from what you say. And what you work will work for us. We don't speak, we don't raise our hands. You've also mentioned about us having sponsors, someone who can speak of us, who can say, Rebecca, that work belongs to you, and they can hold your hand for that opportunity. You also spoken about us lifting other people, because lifting those people is us. So soon we will build a network that believes in us. So my first question to you, from what you've spoken today, is many times women confuse performance manner. How does influence
excuse me, one
look
second.
to you, and how can we, but to that person who wants it simplified? Yes, just simplify it for us. Welcome, Gina. I hope that question was
Thank you.
clear. Yeah.
I'm sure it was, but for some reason, all of the sudden, I am having connectivity issues. I'm going to turn my camera off to give me a little more bandwidth. And then if you wouldn't mind, Rebecca, repeating that question just quickly.
I will.
Thank you.
I hope I'm clear. Yes,
Yes,
I'm
you are
clear
now.
now,
Yes.
Gina.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So I was saying, from what you have mentioned, seems
So I think Rebecca has some network issues.
Yeah, I don't know
I
if
have
it's
network.
me or are you having
Let me
trouble
add
hearing
my
her?
hotspot. Not yet clear from my side.
Not yet. Maybe if you remove your camera.
Let me also remove my camera. Is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Better now? Okay, great. So I was saying that seemingly many times women confuse performance for influence.
Yes.
By the time we'll be leaving the meeting, many will say, I want to go out and be influential. And we go and perform and perform and perform. So what does influence look like in simple terms to you? And how can we cultivate influence more intentionally at our workplaces? That's clear now?
Yes, very clear.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting too because and this is true, I think, across the board, even for men. It, we confuse influence with titles, right? And influence really is about being someone that people can trust, and trust can be mean a lot of things in that moment. They can trust that they're someone is giving them good advice. They can trust that they know a product, a service, a situation, and they're not just talking to talk. They can trust that what they say today will be the same thing they'll say tomorrow. When people can trust that you are bringing your best and you give great information and that you know your products and you know your service, that will give you influence. And all of those things are tied to the visibility. If you're not raising your hand, if you're always off camera, if you work remotely, these are incredibly important because if you work remotely and you're off camera, you basically don't exist. Okay? Because the way influence is built through proximity as well, right? And in our hybrid world, getting proximity is harder and harder, right? You used to be able to run into your boss in the coffee room. So, and that's not always true anymore. So, to build influence, you've got to be visible. And that means being on camera, raising your hand, volunteering, sharing ideas, not letting those little voices in your head who say, um, you know, Tom always scoffs at my ideas, right? Who cares if Tom scoffs at your ideas, right? Excuse me, that was my dog. It's your influence is built by sharing of knowledge and being trusted and raising that hand. I can't stress that enough. It's for volunteering for things, sharing ideas, asking questions, being curious. Even being curious will raise your influence because it says that you are willing and not afraid to ask for more information. It can be I don't fully understand that, or I'd really love to know more about that. Either way, that gives you visibility, which builds the influence, right? And if you keep your head down and you're working and you're cranking things out, that's great. But that's not building influence, right? Because you got your head down, you're working, you're off camera, you're not talking, right? You got to use your voice.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much, Gina. That's clear. That's very clear. Let me ask a second question, then Patricia will also ask. So often when women are tough and stern, thinking that is authority, we find that we lose our teams.
Yes.
When we become again very approachable, they start saying we are girly and we are trying to be nice. So how do we balance authority and approachability at the same time? Because this is a challenge for many women in corporate leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it really is unfortunate. But here's the thing. We all have to be authentically ourselves, right? And if that means sometimes that our voices get a little high when we're angry or upset, so be it. When we try to be something we're not, people recognize that. They might not even be able to put their finger on it, but they know something is not right. So if you try to be tough and that's not who you are, you come off completely wrong. And that nobody will follow you. Okay? If you are consistent in your authenticness, eventually people will appreciate, like, that's Gina's style. That's who she is. The key is being unapologetic about who we are. Okay? We are not men. Period. We're not men. And when we try to act like they do, it comes off wrong. And then we kind of overcompensate by trying to be perhaps something else we're not, which is, and this is a mistake that a lot of women, when they get into leadership, make. They want to be liked. So they're a cheerleader for everybody, right? And they're bringing in cookies and they go overboard. And then when something happens, and excuse my language, shit hits the fan, and they have to be tough, then people go, what the heck's wrong with her? Right? So not everybody's going to like us, right? That's just life. It's figuring out who we want to be as a leader. And we do work in the forum too, where it's like, think about how you're coming off when you take this approach. Is this the approach that you want to take? I mean, is this really what you think we should be doing? Or is this what you think they want to hear? Because it's going to make a difference in how it's received. So that's my biggest piece of advice, because it's unfair that we get measured by both, authority and approachability. But it's up to us to say, I know that I am a good leader. I know that I'm a consistent leader. And you will just have to deal with whatever bias you have. You know what I mean? And it's because there's always going to be someone who doesn't like your style. But if you are consistent and you are being true to who you are, that's their problem. As long as you're not being unfair and cruel or something of that nature, right? But don't try to be something you're not. It never works.
Thank you. To you, Patricia.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Gina. So I have one question here for you, Gina. So what habits or strategies have you developed to grow your personal leadership presence over time?
I'm chuckling because um by that I mean the one real disservice women do to themselves is constantly second guessing and worrying about what people think, and you pass somebody in the hallway and it's like, wow, they looked at me funny. Don't they like me? What's going on? It's like, oh my goodness, we could take over the world if we used all that energy, right? Um, and now it's just like, I don't care. Like me, don't like me. And really I'm rather ruthless in my life is too short for you to be worrying that much approach. to how I coach women. It's funny because I have women that have gone through the forum. They're like, now we get together and go, what would Gina do? Because it's more just you can't you can't get to where you need to be, where you want to be, if you're always worrying about what other people are thinking or whether or not somebody's going to like this idea, or if you might, I might sound stupid. Well, what if you do sound stupid? Who cares, right? And that's the one thing I always try to get women to think, like, okay, so if the worst thing that I could imagine happened, what would that be? And what would it mean? Like, if I share this big idea I have, maybe it gets shot down. Maybe there's dead silence in the room, right? So what? You shared your idea. And if you do it with genuine enthusiasm and and a real defined belief that I mean, sometimes we just know what needs to be done and we still hold it in. Try saying it a couple times. Just, this is what we should be doing. And let's see what happens. Right? What's the worst that can happen? They're not going to fire you, and who cares if they talk about you? My grandmother used to say, as long as they're talking about you, you're still alive. So this is good. So honestly, that's where I'm at right now. And I will tell you that in the last 10 years, in approaching that, adopting that, I don't care, I have gained more influence than I ever did in the 30 years prior, right? It's amazing what happens when we get out of our head and into real life.
That's it. That is really clear for us. Thank you so much, Gina, for those advices and strategies that we definitely try to apply to our own life here. It was a very good and insightful session that we had with you. Thank you for your time, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for everything that you shared with us. Thank you so much.
You're
So
very welcome.
yeah, thank you. We now move to the panel session. So Rebecca, floor is yours for the panel.
Thank you so much. That looked very, very, very short and very powerful. And I believe that we are impacted and we are empowered at the same time. We now want to move on and we want to welcome the two panelists that we have for this moment. And I'm going to introduce, you forgive me for the pronunciation, Chinyere Okorocha. I know you also have a problem pronouncing my second name, so you can forgive me for that. So it is my honor to introduce a woman whose career sits at the intersection of law, leadership, and legacy. Mrs. Chinyere Okorocha is a partner at Jackson, Etti Edu, and a respected authority in intellectual property and sector-focused legal strategy. She has more than 30 years of experience guiding businesses across industries. Our panelist today serves as an intellectual property partner and sector head for health and pharmaceuticals. She has made history as the pioneer chairperson of the Intellectual Property Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. Beyond her legal accomplishments, she is the author of Hills and Ladders, and we have that on the screen. It's also available on Amazon. In this book, she shares practical insights for women navigating leadership. She's also the founder of the Career Acceleration Mentorship course. designed to help professionals grow with clarity and intention. So today she will be answering questions focusing on how do we navigate legal expertise and executive leadership for women in business. So I want to call all of us to join me as we welcome Mrs. Chinyere Okorocha. Welcome, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure, dear.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for the presentation of our first panelist. So I will also present the second panelist that we have today. So let's get ready to meet a true force in sales, a leader who doesn't just close deals. She is a growth architect, a woman who understands that scaling a business is not luck. It is leadership, strategy, and disciplined execution. With close to 2 decades in techno sales, Anjali Bharucha has built winning portfolios, led high-performing teams across markets, and consistently delivered results in some of the most competitive industries. Recognized with the prestigious President's Club Award by her CEO, she represents excellence at the highest level. Today, she joins us to share powerful insights on scaling businesses and building teams that don't just perform, they dominate. Please welcome with energy and anticipation Anjali Bharucha for our panel session today. So we have some questions already prepared for our panelists. I will start with the first question for Anjali. So, Anjali, what are the first steps you take when entering a new market to ensure successful scaling?
Okay, so thank you first of all for inviting me as a panelist, and I'm just so glad to see a wonderful audience here who's asking lovely questions, and it's so impactful session. So thank you to Queens of Sales for giving me this opportunity to bring out my thoughts here. The first step to take a decision of entering into a new business is a strong conviction. When we say strong conviction, it comes with a lot of research that you do in the market, the deep dive about the market analysis, the regional deep dive, which means what are the dynamics of that particular region wherein you want to enter into a market and scale up your business. You need to do a lot of research in terms of understanding your customer behaviors, buying patterns, understand what problem you are trying to solve for your customers. Does it make sense to your customer in short term or long term or both? Right? You need to have a lot of voice of customer before getting into the market actually, and understand the market needs. I would say competitive keeping is very important. Like being into market, you should know your competitors. What is your UVP, like unique value proposition that you're bringing to the table? And you do a lot of SWOT analysis around it, your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and of course the SWOT analysis for the competitors, top competitors as well. Lot of geopolitical, or I would say the dynamics of the compliances, legal in that particular market that you will be dealing through before entering into a new market. And then you need to have a vision, right? So when you're convinced about that particular business that you are going to enter into a market with and going to scale up in future, you yourself as an entrepreneur or a leader should have a vision where you want to be, let's say 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and what you want to do each quarter or month, along with the relevant stakeholders to get there where you want your business to grow, right? The growth trajectory and what kind of margins you want to make and how you're going to help your customers and kind of solve their problems, right? So everything should be defined very clearly to start with. And of course, you should be open to modulate that as and when the market responds to it. So I would say you should go first with the POC, which is proof of concept, before launching a full scale business in the market. Once you see the proof of concept flying through, that's the time when you realize, when you should be convinced with the backup or with a strong evidence that yes, your conviction makes sense, and you can launch that to the larger audience. Then you should slate out the target customers, who would be the target segments where you want to actually take your business to. It also revolves a lot around innovation, right? What kind of technology? Because I'm from a from a technology sales, so I would say that which technology brings value to the table to the customers, and they're trying to solve their problems, or they're trying to make their lives better, right? So all these things should be aligning to each other. And once you are like convinced totally that yes, this is the solution which I'm going to bring it to the market, to the customers, and I'm going to rock it, right? That's where you get a confidence to do it with a strong research and analysis, and then you go for it. So that's how I think these are the steps. I would say a stepwise approach to enter into a market and scale up your new business.
Thank you so much, Anjali. The strategies that you shared with us. And I believe that having strong conviction is the first step to get into a new market, as you said. Thank you. So, Rebecca, floor is yours for Chinyere questions.
Thank you so much, Anjali. That was you really hit the nail on the head. This question goes to Chinyere. From your experience, what legal knowledge do you believe every woman in business must understand, regardless of their industry? Welcome.
All right. Thank you so much. And congratulations to Queen of Sales for putting together this very interesting and informative webinar or session. I thoroughly enjoyed the keynote speech. So thank you so much. Now, every woman going into business, whether you are a lawyer or not, you must have some understanding of some legal issues. Because what we have found more often than not is that people only come to legal when there's a problem. They only remember the lawyers when there's a problem. But what I'm saying today is that you should use law as a preventive tool rather than a reactive tool. And so the three main areas that I think any entrepreneur or person in business should focus on and get a good understanding of. You don't need to be an expert, but you must understand contract, the law of contract. That means agreements. What are you signing? What are your responsibilities in the agreements that you're signing? Do your due diligence on any company you may be getting into business with or you may be signing a contract with. What are the risk factors as a result of which you are entering into those agreements? And I would say from the very beginning, get a lawyer to help you draft those agreements, because a lawyer will have the expertise to know what and what should be in such an agreement in order to protect yourself. The second thing is the law of intellectual property. The law of intellectual property. Intellectual property is simply property of the mind. It cuts across every sector and every industry of human endeavor. That is the names of the businesses we see as we're passing the street, the names of the products that we sell. We're in sales, right? I just happen to have this bag here with me. I don't know if you can see, it's a MAC bag. I went and bought some makeup. I have something else here with me. This is my makeup bag. I'm sure you all know this brand. And so if I had a bottle of water just now, I've got this remote control with me here now. I'm sure you can see sky on it. All these are intangible assets. The name of your business, the name of your product, the product you are selling, the documentation, business methods. Intellectual property is so wide. You must have an understanding of it, especially because of the world we live in today. We are in a digital economy. So intangible assets like the ones I've mentioned, like patents, that is the formula in drugs, the engine in cars, the literary works, that is stories, film, cinematography, architectural work, all these are types of intellectual property. So no matter what business you are in or sales you are in, you have to have a good understanding of intellectual property and make sure you own the assets, that the IP that you are using. IP is short for intellectual property. The brand names, that you own them, and recognize that you can license them and get more income from it. Or you yourself can be a licensee and use somebody else's digital or intangible assets. And then the very third one is the regulatory framework around your own industry. What does the law say about the industry you're in? I'm a medical legal practitioner, the health and pharma space. I think one of the presenters or moderators is also in healthcare, highly regulated. You need to know what are the regulatory issues around the industry where you are playing. What are the compliance issues that you must adhere to? What permits do you need to get in order to do business without encumbrance, without incurring fines, without incurring penalties? These, I would say, would be the three main areas that even if you're not a lawyer, as a business person starting out in business or running a business, put your eye on those things. Get some legal understanding of these things, and you'll be well on your way to a successful business.
Thank you so much, Chinyere. I think that's clear that we need to know about the contracts that we need to sign, intellectual property, and also regulatory framework. Still attached to that, I would still want to ask that what legal risks do women-led businesses commonly underestimate, especially when scaling? This is so close to the first question as well. Welcome.
Okay, so the biggest risk that I see is that we stay too long in the informal business structure. We stay too long there. You see, a lot of women, and that's one of the biggest issues that plays into the inequality we see in terms of women's rights. A lot of us are small business owners, but we call it small business, but we're using it to train our children. We're using it to put our children through school. We're using it to keep a roof over our head. So it's not that small, right? So a lot of women are in the informal sector. They go into business with a friend, a colleague. They don't put any agreement on the table. They don't put any ownership of rights. Who is actually the business owner? Who has the final say? And then when the money starts coming in, then you see this true nature of the so-called friend you went into business with. So that's the biggest risk I see, not putting structures in place earlier on, remaining in that informal sector too long, such that problems now occur. My advice is that even as you start as that small business, recognize that you are going to grow. You may not be where you want to be, but you are building something. And in building that thing, the earlier you put structures and systems in place such that, it's like laying a strong foundation, the better for it. Because what happens is those companies, you hear every now and then, oh, these people, they raised capital. These people, they were headhunted. These people they paid them $1 million for their business idea and all that. Before you can attract investment into your business as a small scale business, You must have those structures in place. You attract opportunities when you put those structures in place. So let me leave it at that for now.
Thank you. To you, Patricia.
Question. So to Anjali now, how do you balance short-term wins with long-term growth when expanding across markets?
It's an amazing question, I would say. And for me, I think, and for everyone, both of them are equally important. But if you want to actually divide it into percentage, I would give 60-40, right? So I would 60% focus on the long-term business and 40% focus on the short-term wins. My actual goal when I start my business is to grow year on year, which means I have to register a growth on top line as well as bottom line, not just sustain, right? I need to grow year on year in double digit. And that's where that's the long term business is my goal. And that would not come suddenly after 5 years, right? You need to continuously invest. You need to have a cash flow. You need to invest on your R&D. You need to invest on your resources, right? You need to bring in talent on board. For that, you need cash in hand, right? So for that, short-term wins are equally important. So how I would devise a strategy for short-term win versus long-term win, both are very, I would say, interdependent as well as important. I would divide it as I will have a framework in my organization wherein I have three focused teams working on the short term, the mid term, and the long term, which is the North Star, right? Which is going to be a transformational part in my business. And that's how there will be totally different resources who would be working on short term. Like example, I have always been in sales whole my life, right? So I have been talking about numbers, the pulse calls, the quarter on quarter reporting, and then quarter came to month reporting, and then suddenly bi-weekly reportings, and then it came to like daily reportings, right? So that's sales life. And how do you come out of it, right? I have like so many things to address in a day. How do I come out of that cycle and think about long term, right? So it's a very first thought which comes into any saleswoman's life. And I would say that the moment you realize that whenever you are meeting your goals year on year, month on month, it is for a purpose in life, right? For your final goal where you want to reach. So you should never forget where you want to reach after 3 years, after 5 years, for yourself as well as for your organization, right? So you grow, your organization grows, and it's a win-win situation for both of you. So that's where I would say I have read one book, Winning Now, Winning Later. It is by my, I would say, former CEO, Dave Cote. Feel free to read that book. It's an amazing book, which actually gives a lot of insight on how to kind of come out of short-termism, right? So we all, while we all struggle with our short-term goals, we should also keep reminding ourselves on long-term goals, and we should invest our time in planning, in researching, in understanding where we want to reach after a certain time, right? As a long-term part of it. So I would say, again, 60-40, 60% long-term and 40% short-term. That doesn't mean short-term is not important. Short-term is absolutely important, and we should give a lot of, like, we should keep the cash flowing in the business, but at the same time, long-term is also important. So that's something which I can share all of you with and leave you there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anjali. So short term is important, but we should not forget the long term also vision that we have. So to the next question, what role does innovation play in scaling businesses in highly competitive industries like pharma, for instance, oil and gas, or tech?
Yes. So when we talk about critical industries, like when I say critical, it means it's like they have to operate continuously, right? Because, like, example, if it is a power plant or pharma or oil and gas, the production is very important scale or outcome that customers are trying to achieve. So when they want to achieve like 100% production with zero downtime, because that's where they get their profitability from as an organization. So being their partners, your role is to ensure that they achieve their productivity without a shutdown or downtime, and with improved productivity and quality. And you give them a lot of hands on digitalization. Now I would say a lot of people would have heard about AI and the transformational AI and connected, the power of connected, right? So IIoT, the industrial Internet of Things, and so many other technologies which are coming up very, very fast and rapid. And right now it's a transformational time where change management is very important. So I would say innovation is the key. It is not at all an option. It is a primary foundation of any business or any organization per se when it comes to critical segments like power, oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, and all. And innovation is something which will actually I would say differentiate you from your competition, as well as it will help you to stand tall in the market, right? And you have your, I would say, a lot of influencing would play a role if you have a great innovation in place. So I would say you need to be very, very ahead in the curve in terms of innovation, in terms of bringing in new technology like digital transformation or sustainability. These days, net zero and everything is coming in place, cybersecurity, right? So lot of technologies which needs your customers needs to adopt in order to be pioneers, or in order to actually be the forerunners in the race of, I would say they also have a competition, right? So they also have to thrive. So that's where I would say innovation is something that will really help you to define your unique. So there is something called as value proposition, which basically kind of takes a lot of consideration into mind, like your customer, what value it brings to customer table, plus the pricing, everything put together forms a value proposition. Innovation is something which will help you to transform your value proposition into a unique value proposition. So I would say innovation is something which is not negotiable, and it is like the primary I would say pillar to grow your business.
Thank you so much, Anjali. So innovation is the key, as you said, to differentiate ourselves in a highly competitive market. And as you said, it's non-negotiable. We need to innovate ourselves every single day depending on the environment in which we are. So thank you for those, I will say, answers that will definitely help us in the future. So Rebecca, for the next question.
Thank you. Anjali, the next question again is to Chinyere. So we understand that there are certain environments that are very complex in terms of the legalities and regulatory requirements. So how can women in executive roles strengthen their authority when navigating complex legal and regulatory environments? Welcome. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think that's a very important question, because oftentimes women find themselves in positions of leadership, or executive positions, but they're unable to show their value. And so what having that legal knowledge really is all about is that it helps you to show your competence when you have acquired some legal knowledge, and it enhances your leadership. But how do you go about this? One of the ways is to get closer to, or if it's not in your power, if it's in your power, hire legal representatives or lawyers. Get close to them and engage with them on a continuous basis. Ask questions ask deep questions. I'd never seen anybody who asked. There's an Igbo. I'm from the Igbo eastern part of Nigeria, and we have a proverb that says, the person who asks questions can never get lost. And so it is for women in executive roles. If you ask the right questions, then you will have a good understanding of the regulatory and compliance issues around your sector. And thereby you build confidence. That knowledge gives you the confidence to be able to speak intelligently about these issues. When you're in an executive role, the chairman of the board, or indeed if you were called upon, if you were in a board position, you have to show that you know that your industry inside out. And knowing that industry inside out, it means that you know the regulatory issues, the compliance issues. When you seek knowledge from those who already know, then you can exude confidence. You can show that you are competent. You can show that you're someone that can be relied upon. But what we've seen a lot of the time is that women in business, they just face their core competencies, which is, or women in sales, as we are talking about, you don't really think it's your business to know. You don't go the extra step to find out, what do I need to know about regulation? That's the main area. What do I need to know about legal compliance? So I would say, first and foremost, you should get close to those or build strong relationships with those who have that knowledge. And that way, if an opportunity arises, you can shine over and above your peers. You can also demonstrate that knowledge, which will move the organization forward.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very, very practical and true. And that's something I'm taking away with me as well. That when it comes to the sales aspect and building high-performing teams, I know. But when you ask me about just the legal regulatory requirements, I can say that I am not confident yet. So that's going to be a work in progress for me, and that is for many other salespeople as well. So the next question still to you, Chinyere, is, in so many boardrooms worldwide, and also in pharma sales, I would say, we find that women are underrepresented. So how can legal expertise become a strategic leadership advantage in such scenarios? Welcome.
I really like this question because it's the reality of many women today. We all struggle to get to leadership, and then when you get there, it's very lonely because you might end up being the only woman sitting at that table. But I think that when you get there, the onus is on you to shine so brightly, in fact, blindingly so, such that they will recognize that it was a good thing to bring this woman on board, and more women will follow thereafter. You see, what having that legal knowledge does to you, or even an idea around the legal aspects of the business, is that it makes you shine brightly. It makes you see the risk around the corner before others do. Most of the people in the board will be people who understand the business at heart, the core elements of the business. They're not thinking legal at all. So when you come with that legal knowledge, you can solve problems before they occur. You can give strategic advice to your board, saying, from what I have heard from that friend in that lawyer that you got close to before, from what I've heard, these are the risk elements that we need to avoid. It might be better if we strategically position for XYZ instead of XYZ. So you become and it builds. I think knowledge builds your confidence as a woman. When you go into that meeting with a little bit of that extra knowledge, you shine brightly. It's a way to get elevated on the career ladder if that's what you're looking for. So it's very important that we can position as having that legal knowledge and not just the expertise required in the industries where we play.
Thank you so much. And if we add that to what the keynote speaker also mentioned about influence, knowledge above what the others have also gives you influence. So in the boardroom, that also makes your presence solid and your confidence is also boosted.
Eba,
To you,
Absolutely.
that were this fruit.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. So to you now, Anjali, from your experiences, has I think from what we said previously, you worked or you were working in the international market. So how do you build and maintain high-performing teams across different markets and cultures? Because definitely you will have people working from India, people working from Nigeria, people working from Ivory Coast. So how do you build and maintain high-performing teams across different markets and cultures?
Absolutely a great question. I would say um, all the people in different geographies have different cultural foundations, different conditions and nurturing part of their lives, and that's how their characters are composed. And when you have teams in different regions, and especially the high performing teams, because they really need independence to work and they are all stalwarts in their own ways, and they need to perform effectively, right, in different geographies. I think one thing which I have learned in my I would say tenure is core, right? So when I say core, we all are humans at end of the day, right? And we all operate, we have emotions, we have intelligence. So we are built with IQ, which is intelligent quotient, of course, EQ, emotional quotient. And I would say when you try to connect with your team at that level, where it is IQ, EQ, and then you being a manager, you also have a adaptability quotient, because when you're actually talking to different people in different geographies, you need to understand their culture, you need to understand their thoughts foundation a lot in detail, and then adapt to it, I would say, and be very dynamic when it comes to learning, right? So that adaptability quotient, your flexibility, resilience, all these things will help you to connect with your team at a very different level. And then there is something called a spiritual quotient, right? So when you want to become a good manager, you need to have AQ in place. But when you want to become a transformational leader, spiritual quotient plays a very important role, because you're connecting with them, you're at a deeper level, where you are understanding their thoughts, where you're trying to help them to uh, uh, understand the change management, foster the culture of motivation. And it's a very different I would say zone, where you kind of, and women are very good at that, I would say. The spiritual quotient is something which comes to us inherently, right? So we don't need to learn much. It's very, so first thing when we meet our team is like we just get so involved with them, and we try to understand what is the problem that they are facing, how we can get into their shoes and help them, right? So we get into a servant leadership mode, and then we go back to the democratic mode, and we are basically, we can multitask, so we are situational leaders, right? So we keep on changing our roles to help them. That is the end goal, so give to gain, right? So that is where we all belong to. And I would say the final thing, when it comes to different geographies, it is called cultural quotient, which means your ability as a leader to learn different cultures, adapt to it, see what best works for them, and relate effectively to different cultures, and help them to grow along with you. So when you have all these um I would say uh, uh, what to say, when you have this behavior which is very I would say naturally coming to women, but still we need to work on it. It's not that simple. We need to continuously evolve along with our teams, and when you actually connect with them at that level, the core level, that is a place when transformation will come. And definitely you will be able to maneuver through all the different cultures, teams, customers, irrespective of geographies, I would say, because we all are humans and we understand like we are someone who are like empathetic and we understand each other, and that's where when you connect at that level with your teams, you can perform and do wonders. So that's something which
Great.
I've learned in my tenure.
Excellent. So we should not forget that we are all humans and adaptability is the key. Yes, we have different culture, but we need to know how the culture works and adapt as a manager. And I think it's a very good point that we definitely need to stick to and apply in our daily job here as a leader. So the next question is, in your experience, how do strong leadership, and sales strategy work together to drive sustainable growth?
So, as it's a continuation to the previous question, when you are actually connected to your team for a common goal and you all are aligned together for a common vision that you have, that's where your strong leadership depicts, right? You are able to communicate that goal clearly to your team. You are able to convince your team to be on board in that goal, and that's the nature of strong leadership you have. And when it comes to a sales strategy, right? So because when you are a sales leader, example, so you have to basically strategize your goals. You have your targets. You have to create strategies to perform and go to like say to do ratio and all that, right? So you have linearity, say to do ratios, a lot of parameters where you are measured as a salesperson. So I would say both of them will work together to drive a sustainable growth, right? So I mean, there's nothing which is strong leadership creates sales strategies, and that's not just your strategy, it could be your team strategy as well, where you can like adapt a democratic leadership style and take ideas from the team, give them encouragement to work on those ideas, go to the market, capture the market, right? So I would say a lot of effective talent management, because we have to understand one thing, that we are not the only person who can drive the growth. We need to have lot of clones who are smarter than you, and that's why talent management becomes the key. When you're a strong leader, you will identify or scout the talent. You will understand the diverse thoughts which are coming on the table. So when we say diversity, it is not just gender. Okay, diversity means diverse thoughts, like different thoughts, because if everyone has same thoughts, then that will not create so beautiful impact as it creates when you have diverse thoughts, right? So everyone can challenge each other positively, bring in diversity to the table. And that's where I think a lot of amalgamation of your strategy in terms of people management would play a role when it comes to a sustainable growth.
Thank you so much. So people is key. Yes, we're working to deliver sales, but people are at the center of our strategies that we definitely need to look at when we are developing our plan. Thank you for your feedback and your experiences, Anjali. Thank you so much. Rebecca.
Thank you. Anjali, I've also picked something new. Most so we talk about intelligent quotient and emotional quotient. From you, I've learned about cultural quotient and spiritual quotient. I'll definitely read about that. I didn't know how significant also spirituality is in terms of our leadership. Two questions to Chinyere before we say it's almost done. How has being a woman influenced the way you lead, negotiate, or make critical legal decisions?
Okay. I always like to say that women have what I call the file. So the file, to me, that is FILE, stands for foresight, intuition, lateral thinking, and empathy. These 4 God-given traits, as I like to call them, are unique to women, and they come to bear when you are a leader or when you have been put in a leadership position, because it makes you think the long game. So let us take it, the first one, foresight. Men just look at the things, on face value, but women will think deeply about what does it mean for the future. Intuition is a sixth sense. Sometimes you can just think, this is not right. You can't put your finger on why you think it's not right, but at the end of the day, ultimately, your decision not to go ahead with a certain business decision will prove right. Even me, I don't know where that intuition comes from. You can't learn it, but it's a skill women have. And then think about lateral thinking, thinking out of the box. We come up with the craziest of ideas. I always say that I feel that every organization that doesn't have women at the helm of affairs, or let me say, organizations that do have women in leadership positions, they always do much better, because the ideas we bring to the table, are unique. And then empathy. Empathy is very important, because you put yourself in the position of those who you're leading, and that helps you in your leadership journey. It helps you moderate the way you criticize. It helps you moderate the way you speak to your staff, gives you insight in putting yourself in the shoes of the people you're trying to lead. So these qualities have helped form my leadership journey. Even as I'm a lawyer, do you understand? I now find myself not just in law, but actually in industry, in the health and pharma industry. And now, so IP, intellectual property, health and pharma, and now career coaching. So each of these roles, I think is because of that ability to be able to apply these 4 principles that has helped me become a better leader. It has helped me know how to associate with people, my relationship with people, relationship building, all that comes together to influence how I now lead my teams.
Wow. Something new there. We now have a file. We have foresight, we have intrusion, lateral thinking, and empathy. I have a team of 6 empowered ladies who work with me. So sometimes we feel, oh, there is no man in the equation, but we are blessed, naturally blessed, with 4 strong points that make us unique in terms of our leadership. The last but not least question for our panelists, still to Chinyere, if you would speak to your younger self at the beginning of your career, what would you tell her? What
All
would
right.
you tell your younger self?
Oh my gosh. You see, this question, this is one of
We
those
saved
questions.
it for the last.
Yes. I have
Yeah.
5 things I would like to tell my younger self. Point number 1 is clarity. It all starts with clarity. Please, as early as possible in your career, be clear on what you want to achieve. What is your goal? Some women are in employment or even in business, not because they have a driving desire to be there, but maybe because, financial obligations. You understand, they need to take care of aged parents, so they just need to bring in some income. Or if you're married, you have to, bring something to the table, not because they have a driving desire to be the CEO of their company. And I'm not judging any woman. It's up to you. Decide, where do you want to be? But if you decide that you want to be the next CEO of your company, then there are things you must put in place in order to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. But the earlier you decide what that is, then you can take appropriate steps. The second thing I want to tell my younger self is choose a mentor very quickly. What did I say? Choose a mentor very, very quickly. And I dare say a mentor doesn't have to be somebody you sit down one-on-one with. It can be a mentor from afar. When I was growing up, I've been 35 years in my career now as a lawyer. So 35 years ago, this mentor, sponsor, and so on and so forth, they weren't the buzzwords they are today. Nobody knew about them. So I did not have a mentor. But today, the knowledge around careers and business, it's so extensive. And so you've got all of us, in the room today, on the screen, the moderators, the keynote speaker, my fellow panelists, the head of the Queen of Sales. Everybody is there to help the young woman, or even, the not so young professional. Get a mentor. Find some woman who is doing the things you aspire to do and follow her. Follow her journey. See what she does. I'm not saying you become a clone, because authenticity is so important. So you have to just choose the parts of her that you think resonate well with you. The third point is self-belief. Self-belief. You have to believe in yourself, ladies. You gotta believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who gives you the right to expect somebody else to believe in you? It has to start with self-belief, having self-confidence in your own ability. The keynote speaker talked about the brag log. I call it the victory journal. It's the same thing. Anytime that you get to a place where imposter syndrome comes in, or you start second guessing yourself and you lack confidence, if you have kept that victory log or brag journal, I like that name, where you have put down any little success you make, you put it down in that book. Then when that doubt comes in, you bring it out and you say, I was the one that brought in sales of $100 million. I was the one that my MD commended and everybody clapped for me in the meeting. I am the one that, went and represented my MD at this and that business. It boosts your ego and it makes it so you need to believe in yourself. Number 4, training. Training, self-improvement, self-development. Do not wait for your organization to be the one to train you. If they do, all well and good. But if they don't, put aside a little bit of something every month to improve yourself. No knowledge is lost. It's very, very important. And then the last point is, there are more than 5. I have lift other people as you go along. That's a very important point. Don't rise alone. Find a way to give back, because that's what we're talking about today, isn't it? You give to gain. So find a way you can give back. We're all giving back today as speakers, as panelists, as moderators. Find a way to give back and raise women along the way. And the last point is celebrate every milestone. We have a way of, belittling the progress that we have made. We just take it for granted. You bring in a big sales numbers and you do it as if it's the run of the mill. No, it is not. Celebrate every victory, every milestone, every success, because progress is progress no matter what. And that's it.
Thank you so much. And one thing that I can also attach to what we received from the first keynote speaker is that women, we don't know how to say I have done. Men know how to say I did and to use the word I. But women downplay their victories. So still attaching to what Chinyere has said, let's celebrate our milestones. Let's believe in ourselves. All right, let's learn to lift others, because the people you lift are your lifters as well. So I want to say one quote by Moira Rogers as I give it to my co-moderator, Patricia. There are 2 hardest things to say in life. The first one is hello for the first time. And the last one is it has to end today. to you, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Chinyere and Anjali. It was a very, very good session, but unfortunately, we need to have an end for this session. But honestly, I learned a lot from you today, from both of you, and I will definitely apply everything that you shared with us. And as you said, Anjali, we are all humans. We should not forget about it. And Chinyere, we should celebrate every milestone. Thank you so much. As you said, celebration is important. I will ask all of you, please, Queen of Sales, to put your camera on. So we take a family picture, please, because we are celebrating women. As Gina said, we should also be visible. So we want to see you. Put your camera on, please, just for 1 minute. We take a family picture. Thank you. Thank you for those putting their camera on.
Oh, wow.
Great. So smile now. I will start with the picture. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Now we are moving to the closing remarks. So ladies and gentlemen, as we draw this inspiring session to a close, it is my pleasure to invite someone whose leadership, vision, and business acumen have left a remarkable mark on Nigeria corporate hospitality and entrepreneurship landscape. Dr. Iyaduni Atinuke Gbadebo is the Director of Sales and Marketing at Eco Hotel and Suites, Nigeria premier corporate hospitality brand, where she has pioneered innovative revenue models and led large teams to remarkable success. Beyond a corporate achievement, she is an accomplished entrepreneur, leading BGV Limited and Tirta Ayuspa Nigeria, and has a PhD in business management. Her expertise spans sales, marketing, business development, PR, and strategic leadership. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Iyaduni Atinuke Gbadebo to deliver the closing remarks. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Queen of Sales, happy belated International Women's Day. It is always such a pleasure to be surrounded by women who are being too selfless, women who are giving everything that they have to show up every day, to show up big, and to show up excellently, to make the female gender proud, and I dare say to make the male gender proud as well. As we close this remarkable conversation, celebrating International Women's Day, I keep returning to the beautiful simplicity of our theme, give to gain. You know, in a world that often teaches us to hold on tightly, women have quietly mastered a different philosophy. We just give. We give in everything. We give when we reproduce. We give when we step out and say that we could have rich spouses or whatever, but we want to go out and do something for ourselves. We're giving. You know, we give when we say we want to break every ceiling. We give when we say we want to stand up and stand out for another woman. We give when we see other people who are not as good as we are and invest in those people. We give. We're such amazing givers. We give our time to ideas that have not even yet proven themselves in any way, shape, or form. We give courage to rooms, you know, where things are already done and said and dusted. We still give. We give even belief. Many of us have to manage teams and families, organizations, even long after men ever imagined doing it. When a man retires, he retires. When a woman retires, she never really retires. She continues to give. And somehow, through that generous way that we're shaped, we're gaining, not just promoting or, you know, fueling other people, we're gaining ourselves. Sometimes we don't see it, but we are. We gain influence, we gain impact, we gain the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the path beyond us is now even a lot easier than the path that other women will have to walk, because we have given. We have gained that experience, so we have given it. And today we're sharing it. Sales at its highest level is not just about transaction, it is about transformation. It is the art of helping the world to see value where it never once was. And women across industries and continents and cultures have been doing exactly that for generations. Because we give knowledge, opportunity, and courage, the return is never small. It multiplies in our businesses, it multiplies in our communities, in our homes, you know, in the friendships that we make. Because the truth is beautifully simple. When women give, everybody gains, the whole world gains. Thank you for all your time, for all the knowledge and experience that you have shared, for being a member of the Queen of Sales community. May God bless all of us. Thank you once again, and have a happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yaduni, and happy International Women's Day to everybody. And enjoy your weekend, everyone. It was a pleasure to have all of you, and we meet next month, I think. So thank you so much, and have a good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
everyone.
Let's
Thank
go
you.
out and be
Thank you.
packed until the
Bye,
next.
everyone. Thank you all
You
the
are your
speakers.
good
Thank you, our
co-hosts.
panelists. Thank you, our
Bye.
moderators. Goodbye. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you, our
everyone.
participants. Bye, everyone.